LAWsome by Consultwebs. Breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm with your host, Tanner Jones.
Today on our show, we're talking with Joe Fried about discovering your passion within your law firm and choosing your legal niche. Joe is considered by many to be the preeminent truck accident attorney in the country. His office is in Atlanta, Georgia, but he's handled cases in over 35 states, recovering more than $1 billion for his clients. He's the founder of the Academy of Truck Accident Attorneys, former chair of the American Association of Justice Truck Litigation Group, former president of the National Trial Lawyers Trucking Trial Lawyers, and founding chair of the National Board of Truck Accident Lawyers. Joe has clearly decided his legal niche. Joe, I've been looking forward to this discussion. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to having this chat with you.
So let's start with the why. Why is it important for attorneys to choose a legal niche to focus on?
Well, I'm not sure it is important for everybody to do that. I think for some of us who are looking for a way to distinguish ourselves, it's tough. I mean, if you don't happen to come from a family of 3 generations deep lawyers and judges and politicians, and you don't have those natural connections, you got to figure out some way that you're going to distinguish yourself. Why should people hire you? And so the answer to your why question is my why question. Why should people hire you when there's so many options for them to hire? And so for me, that took the form of, and I'm happy to tell you the story of how it came about if you're interested, but it took the form of figuring out that for me, becoming a subject matter expert, in addition to being the best lawyer that I can be, gave me an edge and gave me a way to talk to people that I otherwise wouldn't have had. And maybe all in all, it gave me a subject matter expertise, a confidence to stand in front of any group and to say, this is who I am, this is what I do. And that's why I think it's important for people to consider doing it if you're looking for that kind of a life, as opposed to being more of a generalist. And if you can succeed in that way, God bless you. I mean, for me, I had to figure out a way to niche it down.
That's good. I think just to take it a slightly different angle here, I've heard from other attorneys and talking about, arguably generalist attorneys, just the idea that there's a limitation of growth. It's going to limit their potential revenue. It's going to limit the ability to help more people or to serve more people. What are your thoughts on that mindset?
Well, I want to address that, but I want to say one more thing about the prior question, and that's that for some people, niching down also leads to a more enjoyable way to live life. For me, being a subject matter expert in trucking lets me do all kinds of things in that arena, which I happen to love. I mean, I think, and we're going to talk about it later, that it should be about following your passion. So if you want a life where your work is also your passion, one way to achieve that is by figuring out what it is you want to niche down to. So I think that that's an important thing to keep in mind. Your second question that you just asked me is about how do you answer the natural criticism or the natural concern of niching down, which is niching down, right? It's like, okay, so you're niche down, but now what happens if not enough cases come in, or if people stop thinking about you for some other giant case that you might have been interested in pursuing? And, I had that when I niched down, and I've done it in a couple of different ways. And again, I'm happy to talk about the specifics, but when I decided to focus on trucking, even my own law partners at the time came to me and said, you're friggin' crazy, because people are gonna, first of all, we're not gonna get enough truck cases. And 2, we're not going to be thought of anymore for all these other great cases, and we're going to die in the vine and wither away. And because why would we ever restrict ourselves? And like so many things, the longer I live, I find are contraintuitive. This is one of those areas. actually by niching down, especially if you find your niche in a place where you're passionate. And there's an energy level thing that happens. And, some people call it the attraction theory but it's kind of what you put out in the world is what you attract into your world. And the opposite of what you think is going to happen happens. Because what happens is you start to become known for a particular area if you do it right. And that you become front of mind or top of mind for those kinds of cases. You do have to be willing, I think, in many situations to broaden your geography the more you niche down. The tighter you draw your circle around what you're going to do in terms of subject matter, the fewer those kinds of scenarios may be there in your hometown. But if you broaden it out to your neighboring towns or your state, or in my case, the country, there's plenty of work to be done. And how can a little guy from Atlanta, Georgia become known as, one of the top truck guys in the country? It's not that I'm so great. It's the power of becoming known for something. I tell people all the time, I know a lot about a little. And when you're in need of that little, I'd hold my skill set and my knowledge up against anybody in the industry, true experts in the industry, and not to mention anybody who's working in the legal field in that industry. But when you get out right outside my area, and I'll be the first one to tell you, we're in shark-infested waters, and I'm not the right guy necessarily for you here.
I think that's so important, is to know what you do well, and to focus on that. That's really what it comes down to. I know, hopefully not a curveball for you, but I know I've heard you mention that fear has kind of gotten in the way in the past. And I think particularly with this, I know trucking historically, that's not what you built your practice around. If I recall, automobile defect cases was kind of how you really started your trial practice. Is that accurate?
Well, actually, before I did that, I was a medical negligence lawyer, but of course I really wasn't. I was a birth trauma lawyer. I handled birth trauma cases, and then I happened into being an auto products lawyer because I happened into a case that was kind of the modern Pinto case, where in this case, a Mustang got hit from behind and burst into flames in a survivable crash that ended up resulting in terrible burn injuries. So that took me on about a decade-long soiree. So I really wasn't an auto products lawyer. I was a post-rear collision fire lawyer for about a decade. And then when Ford changed the design of the Mustang, I decided to get out of that field and went through a conscious process of deciding what I was going to do next, and that's what led me to trucks. That's the short story. But you asked the question about fear, and my whole life has been an exercise in the management of fear. I can certainly relate to anybody who might be thinking, "Wow, it'd be scary to go and niche down," but it's scary not to also. So the management of fear, I'm very mindful that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is taking a step despite whatever fear you might have. And if you find your passion and decide to focus on that, I'm not going to tell you your fear goes away, because I still wake up sometimes saying, I've been doing this a long time now. I still wonder, is the phone going to stop ringing? Because that's the negative voices that we all have to struggle with in our lives. But it's natural to feel fear. It's natural to feel fear when you're going to go out on your own practice, when you go do your own thing, and certainly when you're going to do something that feels counterintuitive and niche down and become more specific. It feels like the fear is people won't accept that. There's also at the beginning of this that there's kind of an imposter syndrome that you have to get by, which you're putting yourself out as an expert, sometimes even before you really develop fully the expertise, because what comes first, the chicken or the egg? So you have to say, I decided I was going to focus on trucking. Then I went to truck driving school. Then I went to and started studying the regulations and the industry in a very, very deep way. So I think that, anyway, I hope that makes sense. I mean, dealing with the fear, it's going to be there, and you have to, and really the truth is I don't want it to go away. I just want to be able to manage it, because that the fear is what it energizes you, right? So.
Yeah, I appreciate you being willing to share that. I think all too often most tend not to share, those struggles and those challenges. But just as you said, we can use that for good. We can use it to drive us and to help us overcome some of those decisions. There's a paradigm shift here, though, Joe, because I think, what I'm hearing is obviously there are some limitations there, at least mental limitations to a lot of attorneys in considering how and where to niche down. And the paradigm shift that I'm referring to is that we often think as entrepreneurs or as lawyers or both that if we cut out a vertical or two of our practice area focus, then we're naturally limiting our ability to grow. And so how does niching down help an attorney scale their law practice, or how have you experienced niching down actually helping to boost scalability within your practice?
To me, you wouldn't know my name if I didn't niche down, because I would just be one of the sea of lawyers out there who hopefully people, if they ever think of me, would think of me kindly. But, how hard is it in whatever your field is? I mean, here we're talking about building a law practice, but I don't care what business you're talking about. How do you distinguish yourself? I mean, why would people hire you? Why do people want your services over people who probably have better results out there than you do right now? I mean, you may be the top of the chain, but if you are, I can assure you from firsthand knowledge, there are people that nip at your heels pretty quickly. But at the end of the day, the reason it scales is because, to me, at the end of the day, it's about being front of mind for something. And so what I know is I've done work now in well over 40 states in trucking. And I believe that there's probably not, and I'm not saying this to toot my horn, but this is what we're talking about here. I think that any place you go in the country where people are in the know about trucking, you're going to hear my name would be among the first few that would be talked about. That's what niching down creates. Now, I'm not something all that special. I happened into this area at a time when it was correct and it was right to do. But let me tell you, folks, I mean, I'll tell you, the world will help you with your fear in the wrong way. They will tell you all the reasons to be scared. And if you're like me, that voice that likes to talk to you, inside, it's usually doesn't have good things to say. It's usually trying to stop you from taking these steps. I had people literally laugh at me when I said I was going to become a truck crash lawyer. Great lawyers who I have huge respect for laughed in my face and said, "What the hell? This is going to fail so miserably." It's my own law partners didn't want to do it at first, and I had to say I believe in it. I think it's going to happen. If you don't want to do it, I'll just do it for me. And at that time, both of my partners at the time had more trucking experience than I had. They had both done that work on the defense. So the big answer to the question about how does it work is by focusing. What you're doing is your elevator speech when people say, "What do you do for a living?" can become very, very narrow. And even now, it's been 15 years since I did auto products work and did car fire cases. But still, every now and then, I'll get a phone call, even now, 15 years later. "Dude, you're the only person I ever knew who I got on an elevator and said, what do you do for a living?" And you say, "I'm a post-rear impact fire lawyer." I just remember that. 15 years later, they remembered me. "Do you still do that work?" "No, I don't do that work anymore." Well, would you make an exception? No. That's part of niching down, right? Is to learn how to say no. Because there's a lot of people who pretend to niche down, but that fear prevents them from really taking the steps to truly become a niche player. it's when you burn the bridge, when you cut the umbilical cord, when you really say, this is what I do, and you're willing to put that out there. If you look at my business card says a law practice limited to working with victims of truck crashes nationally. It's right there. It's in everywhere I go. It's not a mixed message. It's always trucking. And so I don't know if that's helpful.
I think it is, especially for our audience members who are exploring this. There's so much that, just as you said, that negative self-talk that often gets in the way, that I think a lot of listeners aren't even to that point yet, Joe. They're exploring what could a legal niche be. You've mentioned a couple phrases. You said, I happened into this. Now, I know there's a lot more that goes into that than just happening into something. But you've gone through, at this point, 3 primary niches over your career within legal, based on my understanding. So those who are exploring this and trying to identify, how do I even begin to start to choose what legal niche I'm going to go into, what are some specific actionable steps that you could advise those attorneys who are exploring that?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because the assumption of most people is, what can I make the most money doing? And that's so wrong. It's so the wrong way to go about doing that. And here's what I can tell you from my personal experience. You can be as narrow in your niche as you want to be. I was a post-rear impact fire lawyer for years, and I made a really good living. I used to tell people, if you got hit from the back or maybe on the corners, I'd be the lawyer for you. But as soon as you turn the bend and you get hit on the side, I'm the wrong lawyer for you. And that's how narrow my niche was. And that's how I would talk about my niche, that narrow. So the point that I'm raising is, if you find the right niche, and the money will take care of itself. And I know that sounds so cliche to say, but it is so true. If you focus on the money, what you're really focusing on is the absence of the money. and that's what gets attracted into your life. I know that sounds crazy, and maybe this is a little bit more esoterical than you want, but I think that actionable steps are to find a confidant that you can not feel embarrassed to talk openly with, and explore what are your passions. If you could, this is what I ask people, and I mentor a lot of people, and I try to help them, and sometimes successfully help them, and sometimes it's work in progress for a while, but figure out where they want to niche down into. And the first thing, usually the call is, I want to be a truck crash lawyer. Okay, why? Because you make a lot of money. I do now, but at the beginning when I niched down, I didn't. People thought I was crazy. I wanted my name on everything trucking. I didn't care at all about the money. I had an idea that later it would come, but if the only reason you're niching down is money, I'm not going to tell you it's a bad idea, because it still may be a good, quote, business idea. But to me, the reason behind this is to make your life congruent, what can you envision a better life than one where what you make your money doing also happens to be your passion, and you're working towards something that's much bigger than making a living. I believe that what I do has changed fundamentally highway safety in the United States. I'm super proud of that. One guy joining up with others and creating an army of people who know how to do this, I know has changed litigation in this area, and therefore has changed the way trucking companies work in the right way. And yes, along the way, I made a great living. And along the way, I helped a tremendous number of people who went through terrible tragedies. But the real thing I'm most proud of is, there's been an impact in the world. There's a whole lot of people who will never be my client or anybody else's client because the wreck won't happen. And I'm proud of that. So, it usually doesn't take people long to know where I stand on trucking. If you'll listen, I'll keep talking about it, right? It's my passion. So going back to your question, what are the actionable steps? Don't think about only money. I know that comes into the equation, and the more I tell you not to, the more you're going to focus on it. But what are your passions? What are the issues bother you or that you'd like to spend your time working on. If the phone was going to ring and on the other line was going to be a case, and it could be any case in the world, you're about to get a phone call, and it could be any case in the world. Stop and think for a minute with me. What would you want that phone call to sound like? And as specific as possible. I mean, where is it going to be? What are the circumstances going to be? What are the kind of people who you're representing? What are the kind of, if you're an injury lawyer, what are the kind of injuries that are involved? Where are their challenges? What's happening in their lives? And the more specific you can answer that question, the closer you're getting to finding what your niche is. And what are the things that have touched you in your life that make you who you are? I tell this story about a person who I was recently mentoring, and we would have lunch periodically, trying to figure it out. And he kept coming back to, I want to do trucks. I'm like, fine, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I don't see the passion in you. I didn't say that, I don't think, to him, but I didn't see the passion. But I was helping him figure out how to do that. And in the meantime, I kept probing for, what else. And then one day we're having lunch, and he starts talking about a personal thing in his life that I won't get into the details of, but it had to do with mental health and how he was able to help somebody and how he feels about the status of how we as a country are dealing with mental health stuff. And I mean, I'm seeing these through tears. I'm seeing smiles, and I'm seeing tears, and I'm seeing smiles, and I'm seeing tears. And I'm like, this is this guy's passion, right? And so I said to him, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I see this incredible passion. And the guy's literally fighting tears, talking about how things that were in his family and people who were so mistreated by systems. And I said, dude, you got so much in you that wants to help. What about becoming known as the lawyer for people who have mental disorders when they get hurt? So many lawyers don't want those cases. They don't understand it. They don't have the patience because they don't understand it. And as soon as somebody's different, they can't take it, right? Their staff doesn't know how to talk to people, just like the whole world doesn't know, And he goes, do you really think that can work? And I said, oh, heck yeah. And so what an alignment of passion. And he's just kicking that off, but you're going to hear about him sometime soon because he's a guy who cares about this. And when you care about it, it's magical things that happen. It attracted into your world for cases. It also makes you the person who does go out and get the best result for the case. So it's a win-win for everybody. The client wins because of your passion. The world wins because you start looking for ways through litigation to make the world a better place. And that's, to me, the whole power of this thing. It's why I love talking to people about it and helping them. And I've helped people find their niche in all kinds of places. And sometimes it's something very specific, like a birth trauma. I've got a friend who came to me and said, going through a mentoring process. I've known him for years. He was a criminal defense lawyer for years and years and one of the best out there. He said, went through this process with him, if it could be any case. And he hemmed and hawed. It took us a year. And then I remember the breakfast. He sat down and goes, Joe, I finally figured it out. If I could spend all the rest of my career working on one kind of case, it would be birth trauma cases. And I said, do you know how hard those cases are? I did that stuff for years. And he goes, I know how hard it is. And it's where my passion is. And there were reasons for that. And we talked about those reasons in his life. And I said, okay, so now all you got to do is agree to do nothing else. That's the second step, actionable step. He said, step one is find your passion. Step two is start burning the bridges. And, and I'll tell you, there's a step zero. And the step zero is to put your life in order. Because if you're going to do this, there's going to be a time that you're going to have to survive to get some notoriety in this new field and to get some money coming in from that field. So while you're in whatever the most stable existence that you have, you're in a firm, you're in a practice area that's generating, it's not what you want to do forever, but it's doing well for you. That's the time that you go and you get your financial house in order. You get your lines of credit set up. You get your new computer systems that you need. You get your new, you're not going to be buying a new car anytime soon. So get your significant other the car they need. Secure the financing on whatever. Get some credit cards. And these are ways to deal with that fear. The fear of what happens if for the first year I don't make money. Well, you know what? Count on it. The way you deal with the fear is plan for it. So plan a cushion for yourself, whether it's actual money in the bank or it's credit facilities that allow you to endure some time, and count on that's what's going to happen. It's going to take you a year to 18 months because that's the life cycle of a case. So anything you go into, it's going to take that period of time, or at least you have to count on it before you're going to start making any money. So that may be the hardest barrier to entry. So I would say the actionable steps are get your house in order and your plan. Step 2 is going to be to spend time finding your passion. Once you find it, step 3 is to really become the subject matter expert in that area. And while you're becoming the subject matter expert in that area, I think there's a couple things you do. You start to truly limit your practice. So that means saying no to other things, while you start to say yes to as many things in your niche area as you can, regardless of money. You just want your name out there on as many cases, on as many articles, on as many speeches, on as many podcasts as possible to get the word out that this is your niche. And you lead with the passion of your niche, right? I lead with, when people say, what's your purpose in doing what you're doing? My purpose is, although I take care of one client at a time, I'm about highway safety, and I'm about changing this industry in a positive way and leaving the world better than I found it. That's the way I talk about it. And my hope is that you would be able to talk about it, whether your niche is related to a specific type of incident, air balloons, explosions. You can make your niche about any kind of incident, car crashes, truck crashes, or you can look at certain types of injuries, like spinal cord injuries or brain injuries or complex regional pain syndrome, or something that most lawyers haven't delved into that you can become truly a subject matter expert in. It can be a type of incident that requires a certain type of expertise, like something that requires an accident reconstruction, or what if you were the biomechanics expert, and any cases that require a significant biomechanics, you can do that. Or it can be a population of people, like you're going to represent children, you're going to represent minorities, you're going to represent women, you're going to represent whatever a definable group of people are going to be, who allow you a window into their existence, and you become a subject matter expert in what it is to be part of that community, and to really seek to understand it and be able to explain it to people who aren't part of that community in a way from passion. Make sense?
It makes sense, and there's so many takeaways there for those exploring that. And one thing that really stood out to me that I too have found extremely valuable is just the power of a mentor, someone you can trust, someone you can have open dialogue, someone that you expect is going to be brutally honest, even when you don't necessarily want them to be brutally honest. It helps kind of force reality upon us, and so that's a powerful thing that I hopefully does not get passed aside in considering that, because I believe that is a powerful source, and I love hearing that you're now focused on mentoring other lawyers. So I applaud you for that, Joe.
I have done that for years, and I recommend it, because it's another one of those counterintuitive things. People say, I don't have time to do that. Yes, you do. And what you'll get out of it is exponentially more than what you end up putting in. You get it's one of those other counterintuitive things. Living a life of service is the key to everything we do, in my opinion.
So looking, kind of digging into this a little bit further, you gave several great categories to hopefully give listeners some pockets of opportunities to consider and niching down. But some personalities are more practical. I think experiences obviously drive perspective, and they drive us to focusing on very specific directions. But I also think that there are certain personalities that rely on factual data to drive the decisions. How much opportunity is out there in this particular category? Are you aware of any specific types of data that attorneys can use to help quantify or to help reinforce a decision and niching down?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, you could take that thing apart in a lot of different ways. A lot of people, I think, use data to tell themselves no, right? They're looking for a, quote, logical backfill to saying no. I'm constantly, I think, well, I'll just say it this way. I'm constantly bumping my head up against people who say you can't do it that way. And that's been true my whole career. So the first thing I have to say about that is challenge its core, right? Challenge the basis of the question. I think at the end of the day, there are different sources for different things. I mean, what I would do if I was worried that, I wanted to understand what the values are of particular kinds of cases, because I know I'm going to be a contingency fee lawyer. Well, there's source materials that you can go to see what cases resolve for. There's a great one that was born out of here in Atlanta, Georgia, but it's pretty national at this point, called Case Metrics, which allows you to put search terms in and see what cases resolved. And you can also start to make yourself a list that way of who are the lawyers who handle those cases. You can start to get that subject matter expertise built up by getting copies of pleadings from those cases and start to read what other people have done, in that area. But I think that what you might want to do really is challenge the initial thought, because when I was thinking about trucks, for instance, well, we all know there's lots of truck crash cases out there, but the fear is, how many of them can I attract into my world, especially if I'm not going to be on billboards and the sides of buses, and I'm going to be a lawyer who is a people refer cases to me. 99% of my cases are referrals, and 100% of them are either referrals from lawyers or from other people, right? Well, maybe 1/4% comes from a website. I don't know. But at the end of the day, if people want data, I think that they should be asking themselves, what are they really after? Because what I told myself in the trucking world is, I only need 3 cases. At the end of the day, how many cases do you need? If you're talking about post-collision fire cases, how many cases do you need? How many cases do you really want to be working on, at a time? So your niche, if the cases have enough value, you don't need many cases. So I think within each area, if I was looking for data, I would look at places like Case Metrics to see values. I might do some searches through the federal databases like PACER, which is the federal litigation system. It covers the federal court system, or your state courts oftentimes have online repositories that you can search. Look for the number of cases in a particular area. Look for what you see to be trends. I mean, there's a lot of people now trying to figure out what autonomous cars, what opportunities come as we move toward autonomous cars. There are others who are begrudgingly saying my life's going to end as, blah, 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 and their life will end unless they figure out how to evolve. So I think smart lawyers who are looking at new niches also look at are they frangible? Are they is this something that's going to be around for a while, right? Or is this going to be a quick hit situation? But data is going to be, I think, a lot. You can look litigation specific, or you can look industry specific. Like, for instance, in trucking, the harder I looked at the trucking world, the more areas I thought needed improving. So I've done within trucking, I've spent times of my career where I've focused in on, something in particular. Like right now, a big focus of mine is trying to create a world where more trucking companies will voluntarily employ some of the advanced safety technologies in like automatic emergency braking. So I'm working on a lot of cases that involve frontal collisions. But what I'm really after is being able to show the world how effective this technology is and why it makes good business sense, even before regulations require it to start to employ this technology. So those are the kind of things I'm talking about.
And it's clear naturally, the more you niche down, just as you said earlier, it's a matter of knowing a lot about a little bit and really understanding a very specific topic, which makes you even more attractive from a client's perspective. It makes you relatable. It makes you be perceived. And often the reality is that you are the best option for those potential clients, which is a powerful tool, even though that's not the origin or the beginning desire of niching down. It is one of those natural benefits that come along with it, which is, it's great for business. It's great to be able to support more clients and support a family.
I think for some people, it is one of the main reasons to niche down, is to be able to provide a higher level of competency and a different level of competency to a very specific area. And it does facilitate that. One quick thing that I should mention, because we were talking about what are the steps to go through. At some point, you have to take this information that you've spent the time to learn, and you now have to take it and make something with it, right? Take it and now, to give you an example, what I'm trying to say is, I went out and I studied this industry, and then I created some presentations and some written materials to go to my community, lawyers, and to show them how different it is. I mean, I remember for years one of the most asked for talks that I gave were the rules for trucking cases, and to me it was born out of the basic study of this industry that I then cataloged. How do we best talk about standards of care in that area? And I wrote about it. I wrote about it. I spoke about it. I made presentations about it. I pushed it out in the world. So it's by learning all the stuff, but then you have to take that extra step and now put it out there in the world, because by putting it out there in the world, you're putting yourself out there in the world. You in my case with trucking, nobody thought trucking needed to be a field. So I had to first create the idea that trucking is different. It's different than a regular car crash case. And if you're representing people who are amputees, those injuries are very unique. Brain injuries, very unique. Whatever your niche is, it's the uniqueness of that. But you have to now present that to the world, and it's sort of the precursor. It's the why to the question of why are you the best lawyer, right? Why are you the best lawyer? Because I understand this in a way, and I can explain it in a way that is different than just about anybody but a small number of other lawyers out there. That's the key.
Again, so many valuable takeaways for listeners, and I'd like to just challenge you to try to drill it down into the most fundamental. What do you think are the key things our listeners should take away from this conversation on the whole concept of niching down?
I think number one, the question is, do you want to do it? And I think only you can answer that question. Don't do it because Joe Fried said it's a good idea or anybody else said it's a good idea. If it feels right to you, and you can say to yourself, if I could pick this area and work on it, I'd be very happy to be a subject matter expert. It's not going to be a drudgery for me to read the publications that come out on a weekly basis in my area, to study this area. I look forward to being able to have expert level conversations with anybody in the country about this area. It drives me. It's my passion. I think that that's the key is make a decision if you want to do it at all. If you do, take plenty of time to explore your passions. This shouldn't be something you just jump into, because it's not something you want to jump around in. I mean, you can reinvent yourself, and I've done it a few times, but only after sort of I completed my mission for each one that I moved on to the next thing. So I think that the takeaway number 2 is to spend time with your passion. And I think that that's not a solo sport. It's good to journal. It's good to pray. It's good to do all those kind of things, whatever you do, to bring mindfulness to those kinds of questions. But also talk to the people who know you best. Who ask them. It's a crazy question to ask somebody, but if I came up to you and said, dude, man, I've known you for a long time. You've seen me in the world, interacting in the world. What are my passions? What do you see me doing? And just have somebody hold a mirror up to you, because you'll be surprised. Sometimes, and let it sink in. Don't immediately dismiss what they say. No, that's not me at all. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is you. So at least give that loved one, that person, a chance to say what your passions are. Once you find your passion, then start taking action steps to learn, become the subject matter expert for real. It's not a play at game. If you're going to do it, you're doing it to become a subject matter expert. It's going to be necessary. And that's not just a front-loaded process. It's one that you have to make. You're making a commitment to get there and stay there, which means weekly you're reading, daily you're thinking, right? And then I think the other takeaway is, with the hardest one, is to start to say no. And while you're saying no to everything else, you're saying yes to everything involving this field, even peripherally. You're going to speak about it, you're going to write about it, you're going to learn about it, and you're going to start to really act like the lawyer who is that niche player, and it'll happen. It's kind of like a fake it till you make it, because there's going to be a period of time where you're going to have to do that. It's while you're becoming the subject matter expert. And then I left the one other thing out, and that's get your financial house in order before you take the steps, so that you can weather, and you should expect that it's going to take you 18 months to go through this process of transforming yourself. So make sure you're in a position where when the fears happen, which they will, and the doubts come up, which they will, you don't have to turn around at first blush and run back to what you were doing before, the safety of that, because it's going to take some time. Those are the takeaways. And then enjoy the hell out of the process, because it is your passion. So don't let what is your passion start to feel like something different than that. And I think your listeners will understand what I mean. It's like when you take your hobby and you make it into your job, it suddenly stops being a very fun hobby. I guess the final takeaway is the money will take care of itself, folks. I'm living proof of that in various areas. The money will take care of itself. You focus on just doing the best job you can do for the most number of people, and the rest will take care of itself.
Joe, we're grateful for those insights. We're thankful for you taking time to share your story. For those listeners that are interested in reaching out to you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Well, the best way is probably by email, joe@Fried Goldberg, FriedGoldberg.com, or at the risk of getting too many phone calls, my phone number is 404-429-6677. That's my cell. So if it takes me a little time to get back to you, please forgive me, but I pride myself on being available to talk to people. If you think that I can be of help, if you want to run an idea by on how you might be able to do things or have specific questions, I'm happy to get a phone call or an email or a text and try to be responsive. I want you to live the best life you can live, and at the same time have the biggest impact on all the rest of us as you can. So I appreciate having an opportunity to talk to everybody today.
Thanks, Joe. Already looking forward to the next discussion.
LAWsome by Consultwebs. Breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm with your host, Tanner Jones.